All right, today we're jumping into a really powerful guide. It's called the Bias Radar Playbook, and it's all about tackling one of the most difficult challenges out there, ensuring fairness in family court. And it almost always starts with this really human, really powerful feeling. Someone goes through the whole court process, and they walk away just knowing in their gut that something wasn't right, that it was all just unfair. And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? That's what this playbook is all about. A feeling is one thing, but it's not evidence. So how do you take that gut instinct and transform it into real, hard data that can actually be used to make the system better? To get there, we first have to talk about a huge mistake people make when they try to figure out if a system is fair. It's that classic trap of confusing what you feel with what you can prove. So here's the mistake. We look at the final custody decision and judge the entire system based on that one outcome. But that's like judging a five-course meal by only tasting the dessert, right? You miss the whole story. So, what's the solution then? Well, the core idea of this playbook is simple but profound. You have to see the whole journey, not just the snapshot at the very end. Instead of just obsessing over who got what in the final order, this new way looks at the entire case from the second a family walks in the door. It's a way more powerful lens for understanding what's really going on. You can actually picture that journey as a kind of pipeline. And the thing is, fairness has to be tracked at every single step. Did they get through the filing process okay? What happened with those early temporary orders? Were they referred to services in the same way as everyone else? Little bits of unfairness can creep in at any of these stages, long before a final decision is even made. So that's the big idea. But how do you actually build a system to see this whole journey? Well, the playbook gives us a toolkit. Let's take a look. The main tool is called a bias audit, and really it's just a structured process for asking four absolutely crucial questions. Who's getting access to the system in the first place? Who can actually participate effectively? What's happening to them at each step of that pipeline? And the big one, do cases that look similar on paper actually get different outcomes? Now, to run an audit like this, you obviously need the right data, and you have to get pretty detailed. We're talking about tracking everything: case type, if someone has a lawyer, the core allegations, hearing dates, and of course, carefully collected demographic info. This stuff is the raw material you need to start seeing the patterns. And what's so cool about this is how you turn all that raw data into actual signals for potential bias. It's not just about having a pile of numbers. It's about using them to ask really pointed questions. Are there access gaps? Are there delays for certain groups? Are referrals unequal? These metrics are the red flags that tell you exactly where you need to look closer. Okay, so let's tackle a very common and honestly a very fair objection that always comes up when you start talking about digging into data like this. And here it is. Someone might look at the data and say, well, hold on. Of course the outcomes are different. Maybe one group just has more complex or more difficult cases. And you know what? That's a perfectly reasonable question to ask. The playbook has a brilliant way to address this, and honestly, this is the big breakthrough. It compares similarly situated cases. So the analysis controls for all those key factors. It finds cases with the same allegations, the same lawyer status, the same conflict level, and then it checks to see if the outcomes are still different. This is how you finally get to compare apples to apples. Now, this whole process isn't just about finding problems and writing a fancy report. The entire point of the bias radar is to use what you learn to drive real, meaningful action and positive change. And this is where the playbook gets incredibly practical. When the data flags a problem, it offers a menu of proven interventions. It doesn't just say, hey, there's a problem here. It says, here are tested things you can actually do about it. So for example, if the data shows that people who don't speak English are facing longer delays, the solution isn't a mystery, it's expanding language access. It connects the what directly to the how. And to make all this feel achievable, it's laid out in a clear 90-day plan. This isn't some vague long-term project. It's a concrete roadmap. Build your foundation in month 1, run your first analysis in month 2, and by month 3, you're already launching your first targeted reforms. And the ultimate goal here is to create this amazing, continuous loop of improvement. This isn't a one-time project. The whole idea is to constantly measure how the system is doing, make smart reforms based on that data, and then immediately remeasure to see if your changes are actually working. So, this playbook gives us a powerful model for family court. And that leaves us with a final, really thought provoking question. If this data driven approach can build a bias radar to make one of the most complex parts of our justice system fairer, where else could we, and maybe should we, be using this exact same playbook? What other systems could be transformed by this kind of approach?